Online harassment, that's what we're going to talk about now, because how safe is the internet? Well, you know, we're all there in some form or another.
Yeah, and in particular our children, which we all worry about. And last week, you may have seen in the papers, a popular social networking site announced that they're going to be putting tighter controls in place to increase privacy for their users. OK, Elle Richardson is in the studio. Elle was, I think it's fair to say, Elle, you were terrorised, abusive, threatening messages involved, and this went on for over 5 years. And beside Elle, we've got Jennifer Perry. And Jennifer is, well, she knows the tricks to stop the bullying if you can. How big a problem is it, Jennifer?
It is a problem we deal with on a daily basis. It's the biggest online internet e-crime issue that we deal with now.
See, the thing is, anybody can do it. They you know, unlike real life, they really can remain faceless.
Well, actually, anybody can be traced on the internet. It's the willingness of the police and authorities to track them down now.
Right.
So when people say, you know, we've often talked about internet bullying, particularly among children, it doesn't often sound that dramatic, bit of name calling, but yours was very dramatic. How did it start? Because it's been going on, what, 5 years?
It started about 2005, I think it was May 2005. I had a message on a music forum, because I do use music forums, I'm into my music myself, and it was quite threatening, quite aggressive, but I just put it off as someone being a bit stupid with too much time on their hands. The next message come through: if you don't respond, I'm going to make your life hell. I reported them to the administrator and they were banned. I thought that was the end of it. 5 years later, they were true to their word, and I mean, I had impersonation profiles, I had death threats, and I would get messages up to 30 a day. I'd have impersonation profiles. They'd set profiles up pretending to be members of my family. It just went on and on and on.
It's fair to say it went beyond even the normal realms of bullying. This was someone with a fixation, a complete fixation.
Yeah, it seems that, because I mean, I've done my music, I've worked in music before, and I think once your name's out there, you tend to be a prime target for people that have got that too much time on their hands thing going on. And I think that this particular individual latched onto me because I was accessible, and they managed to go around every website that I was on, whether it was a social networking.
When you say you were accessible on every website, does this mean you were on a lot of social networking sites, and were you putting yourself out there? Because there is, you know, there is a train of thought that would say, well, the more you put yourself out there,
yeah, why don't you just come off? Can you not just sort of say, well, look, I'll not do that anymore and avoid all this?
Yeah, but the thing that annoyed me about that was it doesn't matter how accessible you are online, it doesn't warrant death threats.
No, of course.
I mean, I was obviously pursuing my music at the time, so I had music websites that were promoting my music, and I obviously had a couple of profiles that were private, but this person literally wouldn't leave me alone.
And you knew it was, so every time they came online and said something threatening or abusive, you blocked them and reported it?
I did, yeah.
So how, when they came back, were they just using different names?
Yeah, the problem that I was finding was every time I reported someone, they might just ban the name or remove the profile. The IP address was still free to come back on and just continue the
Jennifer,
abuse.
explain the IP address, because I didn't know about this until I read this. This means that every single person who's on the internet can be traced.
That's right. Whenever you go on the internet, you're given a session number, a unique session number. And so that unique session number follows you wherever you go on the internet. It's on every email that you send.
When you say given it, you mean that just happens? Nobody,
yeah,
I don't ever
the
have
computer,
to type in a number.
your internet service provider allocates you an IP address every time you do a session online. And that session is logged on every server that you visit and every email that you do. So that's why people can be traced.
OK, well then, problem solved. You're getting annoyed. You do what? You phone the police, presumably?
I originally contacted the police 2006. Went into the police station and said, I've got this person abusing me, you need to get their IP address, trace them and arrest them. The police officer said, what's an IP address? And I said, well, it's what registers which computer they're on, the location, and I know that.
Well, well, I mean, when you say we didn't know that, but so it's a specialist sort of thing. I mean, I suppose the average Bobby and the beat or desk sergeant may well not know this, but presumably there are arms of expertise within the police that do know this. Have they got a willingness, is the question I'm asking you, to get out there and sort this out?
I tend to find, I mean, the police...
Do they see it as real crime? That's what I'm trying to say.
This is the thing, I don't think it's taken seriously. I think if you go to somebody and say, I'm being abused on a website, the general consensus is just turn the computer off. But it doesn't work like that when you've got somebody who is persistent and they're following you everywhere you go, including your friends as well.
Do they see it as a real crime, Jennifer?
No. They don't. You go into the police and they don't want to log it as a crime and they don't want to address it. Every police force in the United Kingdom has an e-crime officer. And if you have to report online harassment, you should ask to speak to them.
So if Elle was being bullied, but not on the internet, they may well take that seriously.
No, I find that they don't take harassment seriously. What we really need is for victims of online harassment to be able to get a restraining order as easily, cheaply as a victim of domestic violence gets a molestation order.
Well,
that's what we need. We need an instrument to stop the restraining order.
In their defence, the police say, we have continued to support Miss Richardson as a victim and continue to monitor the situation. You don't believe that?
No, I didn't actually receive any support, so I do find that particular part of the statement quite funny.
But they did nab the person who was harassing you.
Yeah, apparently they've got learning difficulties.
Yes, the individual was interviewed. It became apparent that this individual suffers from significant learning difficulties. They said, having considered the full circumstances surrounding the offences committed and seeking advice, they gave the individual a warning under the Harassment Act, but they did not charge them. They did not pursue charges.
They said to me, the person who's been doing this doesn't deny it, but they've got learning difficulties and they got mental health problems.
Has that put an end to it all?
I've not had anything since, but I kind of feel very nervous that it could happen again. The police saying to me, oh, you know, it won't happen again. We can assure you. I said, you can't assure me of anything because you couldn't assure me that this person wouldn't have done this.
But could I ask you, I mean, it's very brave of you coming out and talking about this, and so many people, we know our lines, our emails will go red hot today, and people say, look, this happens to me as well. But you've put yourself above the parapets again, and you could be attracting this. Does that not worry you?
No, because I generally believe that this needs to be dealt with, and the only way to deal with it is to bring it to the public sector.
So, Jennifer, how do you do that? How do we protect, ourselves, and particularly our children? You know, because, you know, as Elle said, you know, it would be easy to say, well, just don't use the internet. The minute you get something like that, stop using it. But it's part of people's lives now, especially younger people.
I think to prevent it, the things that you want to look at doing are don't use your name. Use an anonymous nickname or something that doesn't identify you, so it makes it difficult for people to search for you. Don't use provocative pictures. Don't use provocative language, or some of the things that you can do. On
What's considered provocative?
Well,
you know, you
when I look at my Twitter avatars, I reckon all the provocative pictures I get, I reckon the people with all the saucy pictures obviously don't look like that at all.
Sometimes you see you see young people. I think sometimes they don't mean to be provocative. It's just pictures of them at a party having fun with their friends that they're not putting there to be intentionally provocative.
Well, the other advice is also that two things for young people particularly is that don't add everybody onto your social networks. I mean, some children will have 600 friends online. You really need to be more selective about your friends. And the other thing is to make sure that your privacy settings are set as high as possible.
Now, these are all the practical things, but Elle, I want to know from you now personally, just what did this do to you? It's all right, you know, that's the instances, and we're talking about the individual evolved and whatever motivated them, goodness knows, but what effect did this have on you?
I just noticed a very severe deterioration in my confidence. I've suffered with depression and stuff in the past, and I just found that this elevated the whole feeling of just being worthless. I felt very suicidal at times.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean to bring all that back to you. I just wanted to have the sincerity of it, because what I've noticed, Jennifer, is that especially online, people who write blogs, and listen, you only have to be in the public eye like us, and people feel they can be incredibly wicked, above normal boundaries, and they can say what they want. They're hidden away. They don't have to say it to your face, and most of them wouldn't dare say things to your face. And different rules apply socially now, don't they?
It does, and it's frightening, you know, how cruel people can be of all ages. You know, it's not just young people. It's, you know, everyone can be a victim to this. Somebody's having a bad day, they're going to take it out on you. They didn't like what you said.
I think it's the anonymity of the internet as well. The fact that you can just go on and create a persona for yourself. And where the police say, well, we need this person's details, well, I don't know their details because they're logging in under a fake name. And you need to...
Do you really think, Elle, that they realise the harm that they're causing? And
no, I think that it's very easy for somebody online to go online, post abuse and just walk off again. They can't see the actual reaction, the feelings, the emotions the person's having as a reaction to this. So they have no idea of the consequences. To them, it's just banter. to the other person, it's really threatening.
We've had a lot of emails this morning, a lot of people wishing to remain anonymous, which I understand when they've been stalked. I was stalked for a year on the internet. It was the most terrifying time I've ever experienced. I went to the police, they really didn't help. I no longer use social networking sites. I had from someone else, I had lots of nasty rumours going around about me and my friends. I only wanted to use it to keep in touch with friends from school. People need to be more aware of who they add to their list.
On the other side, there can be huge positivity to the whole community out there. And, you know, when you look at something like Twitter, you know, I've been down in the dumps at times and been on Twitter, and people are incredibly supportive and really nice, and there's that whole other side to it. It can be a force for good, or it can be a force for great evil, as we see in Elle's case.
It is. It's just being smart online. Just like if you're going into a rough neighborhood or something, you take different precautions. And we have to learn what new online safety habits are. And we're just a generation that hasn't learned that yet.
And keep improving them as well.
Yes.
I hope you get your confidence back to go on and pursue your music career and your personality out there, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to be your friend and want to love you and want to communicate with you.
I'm going to campaign to online policing really steps up.
Okay. So police, are you listening? For more information or advice on anything we've just discussed, you can go to our website. Try not to leave any abusive messages if at all possible. itv.com/.
Yes, because we'll have your IP, what is it?
IP address.
IP address.
Yeah.
Now you know.